On this edition of the Just in Time podcast with Justin Kutcher.
Joe says to me, hey, stay through the middle. Doesn't mean you won't go deep, just stay through the middle. And as I'm walking up to the plate, I remember telling myself, you're overthinking everything right now. Like, just get a good pitch to hit. Turned out to be the first pitch. I got a good one to hit and kind of hung up there. It was high, and I let her fly. They sent him down. And so I got called up for Brett. Obviously, that's a weird scenario, too. I get called up for him. And he's like my big brother that's kind of established, that struggled, and they needed to shake some things up, whatever. So they send him down, call me up. He's like, don't worry about me. Like, just go do your thing and we'll be there before long. So I got my first hit out of the way. I steal second. Joe Oliver, our catcher, gets a base hit to right field. I'm scoring, play at the plate. I slide kind of to the side and tap the plate. In my pop-up slide, I pulled my helmet off and I slammed my helmet down like, no! Gary Darling, like pro hop and just tossing. And this is my first at bat. I've been in the game for a couple innings, which was, I think, probably helpful and good. I'm into the flow of the game. And I know I'm leading off the inning that inning. And as I'm running off the field, I had no reason to have confidence at that point because I was scuffling my butt off, but I'm like, shit, I'm going to do something. I felt good about it for whatever reason, and I've had no success off of Wakefield.
The greatest sports moments happen in seconds, but the stories behind them are timeless. Dive into the mind of the icons who lived those moments. No filters, just authentic conversations about the moments that define careers. I'm Justin Kutcher, and this is the Just in Time podcast. Welcome to another episode of the Just in Time podcast with Justin Kutcher, joined now by a guy who played 12 years in the majors, was an all-star. He's a member of the first family of baseball. He's now the manager of the New York Yankees. It is Aaron Boone. Booney, thank you so much for joining me here. It's great to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. With that opening, I should carry you around with me on it.
Hey, you let me know. I'll be your sidekick. I'll be your hype man any day of the week.
Yeah.
Dude, obviously, people who are tuning in and watching right now are probably thinking, oh my gosh, Aaron Boone. Okay, who's going to be the starting left fielder this year for the New York Yankees? Who's doing this? We're not talking about any of that. I'm getting that out in the open right now. Okay, what I want to know, I want to go back and talk about your childhood. I want to go talk back about your playing career. And to me, it's so cool that your grandfather, your dad, you and your brother all made it to the majors, all played over 10 years in the big leagues. That's beyond ridiculous. I just want to know, what was it like growing up in the family and the household?
Yeah. It was great. You know, I always tell people my childhood was second to none, man. I mean, you know, my dad got to the big leagues in 1972. He got called up in September and ended up playing 19 years. So, and I was born in March of 73. So he was, you know, a big leaguer from the time I was born till my senior year in high school. So, and it was a time. And, you know, we're so fortunate to have a dad that brought us with him all the time. Like we were at the ballpark all the time, Brett and I, and then Maddie later on. So I literally grew up in the game and grew up in a clubhouse, and you know, it's definitely the family business, and in a lot of ways, all we know.
As a kid, when you're in the clubhouse, I mean, I've asked this question to some other guys who have had dads who played professional sports. Do you get that your dad is a big leaguer, or is he just dad? And you look at the other guys, you're like, oh my God, there's so-and-so and there's so-and-so.
Um, I mean, I look, I think you're aware, but it was also very normal. And so my dad, you know, we lived, you know, the first 10 years of my life were in Philadelphia, in South Jersey. We lived there, and most of the team lived in the area. So it really was our family. Our family friends were teammates and the other families. And we were so fortunate with the Phillies that, you know, they let us go to the ballpark, so that, you know, I was riding my big wheel around the clubhouse with Ryan Luzinski when we were 3 years old, and, you know, had my own locker at Veterans Stadium, or shared one with my brother. And we were in uniform every day, shagging from the time I was 6 years old on. So, um, again, really fortunate that my dad took us and let us be there. Now, I think part of the deal was we kind of had to know how to exist in
Hmm.
that environment, right? And part of that is knowing when to disappear, when to shut up, you just had to, otherwise you couldn't hang. So I think, we had that ability or bred into us, however you want to say it. And but it was so great. And he played on a lot of great teams too, starting in Philadelphia with a lot of great players. And they were our family, our friends. And it was a great way to, you know, every day after school, like my dad better not have left because we wanted to go to the park with him. And more often than not, he waited and we'd go into the park every day.
Do you remember the '80 World Series?
Yeah, so I was 7.
Right.
I remember it pretty well. I actually, believe it or not, about a week ago, I watched Game 5 and Game 6. I was up late. I was in my office, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna watch it. Just sit and watch it," you know? So I loaded it up and, watched Game 5 and 6 again. Um, I didn't go on the road to Kansas City for the middle 3 games. Um, and I can't really say I remember watching in the building. What I do remember is Game 6 when they won. Ryan Luzinski and I, who's the same age as me, we were in the clubhouse in the food room when Tug struck out Willie Wilson. So I have memories of that, and then obviously, the celebration and the parade the next day. I can't say I remember them that well, but I was so locked in and there every day that um, it was a lot of fun to be a part of. I know that.
And then your grandfather, if I am correct, and please tell me I'm wrong, I think he was on the World Series winning team for the Indians in
Yeah,
1948.
yeah. So he was obviously the last time Cleveland won a world
Yes.
championship. So that was his first year up. So he played from 48 to 60. So that was the year he got called up. So I think he was a call up that year. So I think he only had like one at bat in the World Series, but that was his inauguration into Major League Baseball.
I mean, it's just so neat to have your grandfather. Okay, I could talk to grandpa about baseball. Then my dad's a big leaguer, and then you and your brother make it to the big leagues. When you make it, does it feel like, oh yeah, I mean, I'm just going to the family business. This is what I should be doing, or was there
Um,
still like that? Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're here.
yeah, probably more the latter when you first get there. There's certainly some familiarity though, without question. That's probably different than most guys. But I mean, that's still, a dream come true and you understand to some degree. I mean, you're a little, when you're a young athlete and coming up, like nothing's going to get in your way and you feel like you're going to make it, but you also realize things have to kind of break your way. And, I played with a lot of players, especially growing up in Southern California through high school and stuff. And then in college and the minor leagues that, man, you feel like they're probably better players than you or whatever, but, somehow they don't survive the ladder that you got to climb. Um, so uh, it was an amazing to get that call up. It's very emotional. It's nerve wracking going there, but having a little bit of familiarity for me, I was joining my brother's team too.
Mhm.
So I was, for being a minor league guy at that point, I was pretty familiar with a lot of the guys on the team and knew a lot of the guys on the team pretty well, in part because of my brother.
Okay, so take me back to you get called up. Who breaks the news to you that when I say break, who gives you the news? Hey, you're going up to Cincinnati.
Um, Dave Miley. So I was in um Indianapolis. Wait, wait. Yeah, Dave Miley. So I think I got called up in June. So the Reds were kind of a veteran team at that point. Um And it was after a game and called me into the office and told me I was going to the big leagues. And um, I knew it might have been a temporary thing at the time, even though, I was one of our top prospects or whatever and was having a good year, but it might have been a temporary thing. And it ended up that first time being that I was only up for a couple weeks or maybe a week or 2 weeks or something. Um, but it's like this, you're going to the big leagues. I mean, it's what you dream of doing your entire life. And, I obviously lived it growing up and was certainly aware of a lot of things, but it's still that realization of a dream you've had since you were a little kid. And so it's very emotional time. I remember, you know, different than nowadays too. When you were broken, is still a very old school mentality too. So it's like, rookies, you watched what you said and watched what you did, and umpires are watching you and all that. So I remember I wore my pants up sometimes
Okay.
with, the socks. And I remember saying to my dad, I'm like, you think I should wear my pants down so I blend in more? Like I didn't want to like stand out. And he just said, go spit in their eye, kid. And that stuck with me. Like you do what you need to do and go play your game. And um, that kind of stuck with me.
So when he said go spit in their eye, kid, you in your major league debut,
I did spit in their eye.
you got ejected.
I did.
I don't know how many players in history have been ejected in their major league debut. Booney, that's unbelievable. I mean, it leads to conversations for now as a manager, but what happened? Like, what's going through your head in your debut that
Yeah.
you get tossed?
Yeah. So I think it's around the fifth inning, tie game. Matt Morris is pitching for the Cardinals. Um, I get a base hit, drive in the go ahead run at the time, or tying run or go ahead run. Um, so I got my first hit out of the way. I steal second. Joe Oliver, our catcher, gets a base hit to right field. I'm scoring. Play at the plate. I slide kind of to the side, like a normal slide, but slide to
Mm-hmm.
and tap the plate, because obviously back then you could block the plate and stuff. So I just slid around, tap the plate, in my opinion, and into like a pop up slide. And Gary Darling's the home plate umpire and out. And as I'm in my pop up slide, I wasn't so much like angry, even though I thought I was safe. And so I was disputing it a little bit, but I wasn't like going to argue with him. I just, in my pop up and the out call, I pulled my helmet off and I slammed my helmet down, like, no. And my helmet just goes, don't, and I mean, catapults. And I mean, Gary Darling, like, crow hop and just tossing. And I'm walking off the field like panicked. Like, again, a different time than now where,
Mm-hmm.
umpires sometimes there was no strike zone grades. It was his strike zone and you liked it or not, like, so he throws me out and I'm walking off the field and you see me walking off the field, like grabbing my head, like, oh my gosh, what have I done? And so I go up in Old Bush Stadium. I walk up into the clubhouse, and back then the starting pitchers a lot would sit up in the clubhouse if it was on TV because they were charting the game back then. They would chart. So I walk up there, and again, it's a veteran laden clubhouse, and sitting on the up there is like Jeff Brantley was up there, Dave Burba, John Smiley, and they looked at me as I walk into the clubhouse and just started laughing and just said, "Hey man, we got your fine. We loved it." So I was good there, but then I'm like, "Okay, I'm going to go out to third base tomorrow if I'm in the lineup and Gary Darling's going to be at third base." So there's this whole nother level of like nervousness, panic, whatever. So next night I go out in the first inning to third base, and Gary Darling's there. And he's out there like this, like sizing me up a little bit. And I just went over and I said, and Gary was good dude, but also like old school, like, so he's kind of looking at me like this. And I just went up to him. I said, "Hey man, I was not trying to," I explained to what happened. I was in my pop-up slide and I just kind of reacted, and he goes, and he's kind of stone facing me. And then he goes to me, he goes, I asked around, "You're all right." I said, so I exhaled a little bit, but yeah, that was my debut.
That that is so incredible. Again, I
Yeah.
mean, so you get your first knock, you
Yep.
get an RBI, and you get ejected all at the same time, basically in the same inning, and
Yeah.
your first stolen base.
Yeah.
Uh, just greatness. I mean, that just adds to the entire aura of the first family of baseball.
Yeah.
But did you go to the ballpark that day with Brett?
No. So that's the other twist in it. So Brett, which actually made the call up a little bittersweet. Um, Brett was kind of an established big leaguer at that point. Has had a couple of good years, was struggling though in that year, and they sent him down. And so I got called up for Brett. And and he was great because he was just like, because I felt like, obviously that's a weird scenario too. I get called up for him, and he's like my big brother that's kind of established, that struggled, and they needed to shake some things up, whatever. So they send him down, call me up, and he was great. He's like, "Don't worry about me. Like, just go do your thing, and we'll be there before long." And so he was only down there for, I think it was less than a week actually, and they called him back up. It was kind of like, yeah, so we got to play with each other then. But yeah, I got the transaction was me for Brett.
It's funny because I have an older brother. He's about 6 years older. And I always dreamed of, he was a catcher. I was a shortstop, second baseman. I always dreamed of like turning, like him throwing down a second, me applying the tag.
Hmm.
You guys were both infielders, but you got to play together.
Yeah,
So what's the age difference with you guys?
4 years.
Yeah. So you don't really overlap too often in school. So
Right.
now you get to play together in the big leagues. What's it like when you're at third base and you go to throw to second and
Yeah,
there's your brother?
it was great. So the 97 season, that's when I got called up. I got called up, I think it was June.
Yeah.
And I was up for whatever, a week or 2 weeks. And then I got sent back down. Um, and then I got called up like a September call up that year. So we got to play together a little bit in the same infield that year. Then in 98, I made the team out of spring training, but Willie Green was our third baseman. So I made it because I had a good spring and I finished strong. So I made it as a bench player, but
Mhm.
I think, our top prospect. So it wasn't really so I didn't get any at bats really the first couple of weeks. So they sent me down again. So, and actually that year in AAA, I was struggling for a couple months. I had a great year in 97, 98. After I got sent down, I was just kind of whatever, mediocre. And then Pokey Reese, who I ended up playing with a ton and kind of came up with a little bit, he was playing in the big leagues. He broke his thumb, and so I got called up in July, kind of a little bit by default. I wasn't
Hmm.
playing great, but I got called up. So I get called up, and from that point on, I stuck, and I started playing well up in the big leagues. I became our starter up there. So the final and Brett had a great year that year. So that final 2 months, Brett and I played together, 50 something games, the final 2 months together. And it was awesome, to have your big brother there. Um, I lived with them, moved in with them, and, I think helped ease the transition of trying to establish yourself as a big league player.
It's funny. It's such a small world. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was flying back. I think I was in Palm Springs over Thanksgiving. And I happened to run into a guy who works for the Yankees and he's your lead cross-checker. And he and your brother Brett grew up together. So we start talking, and he's like, "Wait, I gotta find this, I gotta find this." And he pulls out on his phone a video. He said Aaron used to come to our games with, like, the old VHS camcorder, and he would do a report like he was reporting, and he shows me you, like, doing a report at one of their games.
Yeah, so that was I didn't bring the camera. So
Okay.
so my so I was probably, let me think, I had to be about 14. So I was probably like in 8th grade. And Brett's we were in Southern California, and Brett's Connie Mack team was went to the Connie Mack World Series in Farmington, New Mexico. And one of my brother's teammates, Rob, and Rob's the Spores, Rob was on the team with Brett, and they were best friends, and our families were really close too. They had 3 boys, we had 3 boys. My mom and dad and Bob and Sally were great friends, still are, and so we're all there, and Scott, who's the middle son like me, had the camera. So he would film, and I would kind of announce or give report, like you said, I was the little squeaky voiced broadcaster talking about the games. And they end up winning the Connie Mack World Series.
So much fun. So much
Yeah.
fun. It's such a small world too. I think back to you and I, how we kind of got to know each other playing in Phil Nevin's golf tournament every year, and you'd be decked out every year in your USC gear. And obviously, you went to go play at USC. What was it about SC that you're like, I, I'm getting drafted. I don't care. I'm going there to play.
Yeah, I became such an SC guy in about 7th, 8th grade. I just became Rodney Pete. All right. So that
Okay.
football. So Rodney, those USC football teams at the time, Rodney Pete, Mark Carrier, Junior Seau, Donnie Gibson, John Jackson, Eric Affolter, whatever. I became a huge USC football fan when I was in middle school. And then my brother went to SC. So and then Rodney Pete was actually, when my brother was a freshman, Rodney was a senior, and he was the third baseman for SC. Good baseball player too.
Really?
Yeah, so I was, from the time I was in 8th grade, or wait, no, when Brett was a freshman, I was in 9th grade. When he was his freshman year, I was going up to SC games and got to know the program, the coaches, all the players. So even before he went there, I was all SC, but then when he went there, I was even more entrenched. So I was going to USC for sure.
So I broadcast in the Cape Cod League in 2002. You played in the Cape Cod League. What year was it?
I played
93?
there in summer of 93.
Okay. For if I did my research correctly, for Orleans, the Orleans
Yep.
Cardinals,
Yep.
what position were you playing? Was your shortstop Nomar?
Yes. So Nomar was at short. I was at third. Jay Payton was in center. We won it. We won
I
the
used
Cape League that
I
year.
used to broadcast with Jay. Oh my God, this gets smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
Okay, so you win the Cape Cod League, but did you look at those guys and think, yeah, they could be major leaguers? Like we could all be playing in the
Oh
big
yeah.
league.
Yes. And
Why?
Nomar was like well, so was Jay. Jay, like, I think led the nation in hitting at Georgia Tech that year. Hit like 460. He actually really struggled in the Cape. Hit like 150 in the Cape. He really struggled. Just, I think, to transition to a wood bat for whatever
Mhm.
reason. Obviously, he would eventually make that transition, have a good big league career. But yeah, Nomar was one of the best players in the nation. And, was heading to be a first round pick. And yeah, I looked at them as, I mean, and back then, you're playing the Cape League. It's a little bit the best of the best in college. And yeah, so you're starting to get close to those things being a realization.
Since you play with those guys in the Cape League, when you saw them in the big leagues,
Uh-huh.
Was there ever, like, dude, remember that summer Orleans
Sure.
championship?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And yeah, I mean, and those things kind of bond you as well. And then Nomar and I end up um, broadcasting some games together when we both the same year joined ESPN after we both retired.
And it's funny because so I have a picture. I'll pan up so you can see right over there.
Is that
Um,
Boston Yankees
that is,
BP?
and it happens to be the night of Game 7,
Really?
2003. I
Wow.
was I was in the press box doing stats with Fox.
Oh wow.
Uh, that was before the game, and I was just thinking, I'm like, man, so Booney and Nomar were teammates on the
Yeah.
Cape League team.
Yeah.
You get traded to the Yankees at the end of July of 2003,
Yep.
and you're playing in that game. And I just thought about it, and I was like, dang, okay, wait a minute, that's the night. Like
Yeah.
that's the night that everything kind of changed.
Yeah.
And when you got traded to the
Uh-huh.
Yankees,
Yeah.
A, what's it like to be traded? And B, what were you thinking? Like, I'm going to be part of the New York Yankees.
Yeah. So I'll give you kind of the long answer. So so that's 2003. So I'm established. I
Hmm.
was an all-star that year. I loved Cincinnati. Like I came up, through the minor leagues. It's all I knew. I lived there in the off season. Like I was just really tied into that place. Like I loved all the people that in the organization. I was, you know, so it was the first year of the new stadium. Um, and then late in July, kind of middle, later part or end of July, late in July, my dad and Jim Bowden get fired. And, so the GM and the manager out
Hmm.
and, and the Reds started selling. So they traded a couple of players and then it came out, um, we're not going to trade Aaron. And so I actually went and had a conversation with Mr. Linder, who owned the team. And I said, look, I want to be here, but I don't want to be here because they were getting a lot of heat. The organization was getting a lot of heat for trading some, it's sell mode. They're trading some of their guys but they came out and said they're not going to trade me. And I just, I didn't want to, I said to him, I said, if you want me here, I want to be here. I love it here. This is where I've come up. I said, but I don't want to be here just because you don't want to take a hit publicly for it.
Right.
So I said, do with that what you may. So a couple days go by and now I'm gonna get traded. So it's like 2 days before the trade deadline, and it kind of happened fast. And I went to bed the night before the trade deadline, thinking I was probably getting traded. It was Seattle, the Dodgers, or the Yankees. And my brother was in Seattle, so obviously all teams, in the mix. So um I woke up the next morning, my agent calls me and says, um, it's the Yankees. Cashman's going to be calling you any minute. And Cash calls me. Yeah, hey, we traded for you. Can you meet us in they were playing the Angels that night, but then the next night we're starting a series in Oakland. Can you meet us in Oakland? I'm like, sure. So it was really bittersweet, to use that term again.
Hmm.
I loved Cincinnati so much. It meant so much to me. So there were a lot of tears at my press conference, when I cried like a baby up there. But I was also like so excited to be going to the Yankees and first place. And, we got a chance to obviously go to the playoffs. And so I hurry out to Oakland. My first series there was literally like 24 hours later was Hudson Zito Mulder. Faced them all on the weekend. And I was thinking at the end of it, I go, I could have met you in New York.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was But interestingly enough, when the the night before I was leaving, I was sitting around the clubhouse with everyone. We were just hanging out, reminiscing, talking, teammates. And Tim Naring, who played for Boston, who's been in our front office
Yep.
with the Yankees now for probably 20 years, but at the time was I think the farm director at that time with the Reds. And he's down there in the clubhouse and he's like, you have no idea what you're in for. Like going to the Yankees and the Boston Yankee rivalry. And I'm like, I'm like, I know this game. Like I follow the game. I know what I'm and he was right, man. It's another level.
So, okay, you grew up in the game,
Hmm.
but to go to the Yankees and knowing the history of the game, knowing the history of the franchise of the Yankees, when you put on the uniform, and the first uniform you put on for the Yankees is a road uniform, but when you put on the pinstripes for the first time, does it hit you differently?
Probably I had never played at Yankee Stadium at that point too. So I was, it was old Yankee Stadium at that
Yeah.
point. But so yeah, but at the same time, it was such a whirlwind too. It's why I'm really sensitive sometimes to when or empathetic, I hope, in when around trade deadline, like when we
Mhm.
bring somebody in, like how much I try and make sure they're just good, like, cause it is a whirlwind. Like, I mean, all I knew was Cincinnati. That's where I live. Boom. Uh, Meet us in Oakland tomorrow and pack up your stuff. It's my first year of marriage, so we got dogs. Like, so we're figuring it all out. And, so it's just a lot. Forget baseball. It's just
Right.
you're going to a new city, you got to find a place to live, and we're playing every single day, and you're meeting new teammates, new coaches, new staff, new who's that guy, like so there's a lot of other stuff that has nothing to do with baseball that, you know, I am now very sympathetic to when guys come to try and make sure it's as seamless as possible or try and make that transition for them as seamless as possible because it's a lot outside of baseball too that you know you got to get right. So I remember it just being like, man, I understanding where I am, man. I'm walking in Yankee Stadium here, but where do I go? Where do I turn? What group am I in? Who gives me soft toss in the cage before the game? Like you're figuring all that stuff out in the middle of a pennant race, so that can be a
Yeah.
lot.
Who was the first guy when you walked in that clubhouse that came over and was like, "Hey, dude, welcome"?
It was more getting on the bus, and I didn't know a ton of guys. Like no, like I y-
Right.
cross paths, but you know, so I remember Mussina because I think he was pitching that first night. So I got on the bus to go to the stadium, maybe like the second or third bus, and it was Moose, and just his dry humor or whatever is like, I remember him being on the bus there in San Francisco. We're going over to Oakland, and then I get there and went into Joe Torre's office, who was amazing. And um, first thing he said, he goes, "Don't read the paper, and then just go be you, have fun, play your game." He was so much fun and easy to play for.
It's ironic that you said Moose was the guy because, of course, we have to talk about Game 7,
Hmm.
and it was Moose who essentially saved the Yankees in that Game 7 because Roger Clemens starts,
Yep.
doesn't have a good start. Moose comes in, bases loaded, nobody out, and got out of the inning without a run coming across.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I
all
mean, Moose. So I mean, the game's about to be blown blown wide open and over. And like you said, bases loaded, no outs. I think we're down 4-0 at the time. Moose comes in, first ever relief appearance, by the way. He's never done that. They told him before the game, yeah, if you come in, we'll give you a clean inning.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. By clean, I guess they meant no outs, bases loaded, clean. So he comes in, gets a strikeout, gets the double play. we get out of it. And it's like, oh, and then we chip away. It's like, man, Giambi hits the 2 solo homers to make it 4-2. Like, oh, we're right in this. And then Ortiz hits the homer off Boomer, who comes out of the pen too. Wells comes out of the pen, hangs a breaking ball, but Ortiz, he hits it out of the ballpark to make it 5-2. And I remember Boomer being like, dang, we're back in this. And he was frustrated. But I mean, that was just the nature of the series and those two teams then. So yeah, he hits the homer and then obviously the 8th inning comeback.
People, I don't know if they remember, you didn't start that game. You
Mm-hmm.
came in as a pinch runner for
Yeah.
Ruben Sierra. I think
Yep.
it was in the 8th inning, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So while you're watching in the dugout, this whole game kind of unfold.
Yeah.
Where are the emotions? Like you guys fall behind early, you're trying to crawl back, Giambi, a couple of solo shots. Like, do you think you have a chance?
Yeah, so, first of all, I'm not in the lineup and I'm like, got to process that, right? Here I am, and I earned my seat on the bench. I was scuffling in that series. Enrique Wilson had crazy numbers off Pedro. So they started him. So I was like, man, I was like bummed out, but it's also like, you need to get over yourself. Like, this is game 7, a chance to go to the World Series. You got to be ready to go. So kind of put that aside and you just kind of watching it all unfold. And obviously early on, it's not looking very good, but then you're like, we're hanging around in this thing. It's like, okay, we got a shot now. And then the 8th inning happens and just these good at bats start happening and traffic. And here we go.
Obviously, you're a manager now, but going back to that game, did you think when Grady Little came out that Pedro was staying in it or coming out?
I think we probably thought he was coming out, but it wasn't like we were like, oh my gosh, because
He's
wasn't
still
that out
Pedro
of,
freaking Martinez.
yeah, it's Pedro Martinez, and that wasn't out of the norm still back then. Whereas, now you'd be a little more surprised at that. So I thought he was coming out. We're like, oh, they're leaving him in, but it wasn't like, oh my gosh. It was just like, oh, yeah, okay. And they just kept putting up a epic inning.
I was doing official stats, and as Tim Wakefield is into pitch, before the 11th inning, I got on headset during the break and I said, "Hey, what was the last Yankees series to end in a walk-off home run?" And they go, "What?" I said, "If the Yankees win, it's going to be on a home run." And so they look it up. They're like, "It's Chris Chambliss."
Yeah.
And I said, "Okay." And then you come up to lead off the 11th.
Mm-hmm.
And I just went back and watched it again earlier today.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a couple of things in there, but you're facing a knuckleballer, and it's always, if it's high, let it fly.
Mm-hmm.
When you go up first at bat in the 11th inning, do you have any like certain approach? What is it?
Yeah. All right. So I had faced Tim a lot down the stretch that year and then in the playoffs. And if they get through it, he's probably winning the MVP of that series. He was that good against us. So I didn't have any success against him. I struggled against him. Um, and then I'm struggling in the series to the point of I didn't start the game. And this is my first at bat. I've been in the game for a couple innings, which was, I think, probably helpful and good. I'm in the flow of the game. And I know I'm leading off the inning that inning. And as I'm running off the field, and I had no reason to have confidence at that point because I was scuffling my butt off. But I'm like, shit, I'm going to do something. I felt good about it for whatever reason. And I've had no success off of Wakefield. And I'm, walking, get my helmet and bat and going up to the on deck circle. And Joe says to me, hey, stay through the middle. Doesn't mean you won't go deep. Just stay through the middle. I'm like, all right. So I'm on deck getting ready. And I'm actually, as I'm on deck, I was going to take a pitch. I'm like, let's see a pitch. And as I'm walking up to the plate, I remember telling myself, just, you you're overthinking everything right now. Like, just get a good pitch to hit. It's the first pitch, the seventh pitch, get a good pitch to hit. So, um, turned out to be the first pitch. I got a good one to hit and kind of hung up there, was high, and I let her fly.
Joe Torre said to you, stay up the middle, you can still go deep.
Stay through the middle. Doesn't mean you won't go deep, but just stay through the middle.
Oh my God. Okay. Oh gosh. You're rounding the bases. And I noticed it as you're around second, kind of passing the shortstop position.
Yeah.
There's everybody, at home plate gathering, and
Hmm.
there's Mo on the mound. And I saw you as I'm watching it kind of like turn and you're looking towards home. Did you see Rivera like just kneeling on the mound, just like
No,
crying? You never saw it.
no. Now, again, we're talking 2003, so it's different now how guys hit home runs, and you kind of, we got around the bases,
Right.
so the couple things I remember from that, and it's a very foggy memory for me. You have those moments in your life that you remember so well, and they're photographic, or you remember them like they were yesterday. This is not one of them. I learn a lot from watching the video that plays on a loop in my house, but no. Um, so I wore this pad. Um, there's a Louisville had this Velcro on my batting glove, and I wore this very lightweight but thick pad because I had broken my hands and wrists and getting hit by pitch. So they built this thing on my on my batting glove, and it's the only time in my career where I swung and it came off. So what you see, or I'm rounding the bases, I'm restrapping the Velcro, and I'm also telling myself, again, usually you just kind of put your head down and go around. I'm telling myself to like slow down and look around and try and drink all this in. I didn't do a good enough job of that. I should have just, as Jeter told me, he's like, if I would have homered to walk off the Red Sox there, I would have went backwards around the base. So I didn't do that, but I was trying in my own way to slow it down and drink in the moment a little bit. But that being said, it's all very foggy. And no, I did not see Mo.
You are one of two players to have a walk-off home run in a game 7. Bill Mazeroski, 1960 World Series against the Yankees, and then you, the '03 ALCS against the Red Sox.
Yeah.
And that that moment is among the greatest in baseball history. It defined your career.
Hmm.
You weren't a Yankee for that long as a player,
No.
but everybody remembers you as a Yankee. When
Yeah.
you look back at your playing career, do you think of yourself as a Yankee? Do you think of yourself as a Red or just somebody who was in one of the
Yeah.
greatest moments in history?
My playing career, I think more of a Red. That's
Yeah,
where, obviously I spent half my career, had my best seasons there. Um, Obviously my most famous moment is in pinstripes, and now managing, I consider myself a Yankee without question.
right.
Um, but honestly, for the longest time, I kind of, in a way, would try and I didn't like talking about it.
Mhm.
I kind of distanced myself from it a little bit because the takeaway from that season was losing the World Series, and that was all. I've never got over that, and so and now as I when I once I stopped playing and people have amazing stories tied to that moment or a personal story, like I have so much of an appreciation for having a moment in our sport, and in a tremendous rivalry and a big game. Um but for a while, like, when I went to other teams, I didn't love talking about it. I didn't want to talk because that's all people knew me for then and wanted to talk about. I was like, I don't, for whatever reason, I tried to distance myself from it. And then at one point, I just started to really appreciate it and
Yeah,
appreciate the small place you have in the history of this game. So, um, now I appreciate it, but I still, we lost to the Marlins, and
I know.
that's my photographic takeaway was them celebrating on our field in game 6. Like I can still see that very clearly, like it was yesterday. Like I can hear them like this deafening silence, and then the Marlins off in the distance, like their voices cheering and just celebrating. And that was my takeaway from that season.
Josh Beckett. Yep. Oh
Mhm.
gosh. All right. So we were on an airplane going to Phoenix. I think right after you'd gotten the job with the Yankees as a manager.
Mhm.
You told me a story. I don't know if you've said it to a lot of people, but how did it all come about? Because you were broadcasting for ESPN, doing Sunday night baseball,
Mhm.
and all of a sudden your name gets thrown out that, wait a minute, Aaron Boone's going to be the manager of the Yankees. Like, how did that happen?
Yeah, so it happened quick. So that that postseason, I was with Dan Schulman, and we called the whole postseason on radio for ESPN, which I ended up getting to do. I don't know, 3 or 4 World Series, which was amazing. That year happened to be the Astros and the Dodgers. So I felt the game calling and pulling at me and kind of wanting to get back in the game. I love ESPN. I love doing that. Like it was an awesome 8 years. I really did enjoy it. I love the skill of it. I love learning and it kept me in the game, kept me current. But I wanted to get back in. I didn't know on what level. So I actually in between game 5 and 6, or going back to LA from Houston, I had a meeting with the Minnesota Twins. I
Mhm.
was kind of starting to talk to them about potentially being their bench coach to then maybe being in the front office. Um, so I was in the process of joining the front office for the Minnesota Twins. Once the season was over, we were talking. Then I actually talked to the Cubs about some things, and then out of the blue, I get a call from Cash, and I didn't know Cash that well. Like, I went there as a player. I was only there for a few months, so I didn't. I knew him a little bit in passing, but not that well. So he reaches out to me. I'm at one of my son's football games in Phoenix, and I'm sitting in the bleachers, and I get a call and it's Brian Cashman. Hey, Booney, it's Cash. I'm like, hey, what's up? He's like, I was just wondering if you'd like to interview for our manager's position. I was like, yeah, sure, yeah, absolutely. Like, all right, um, you know, Ben Tulibits, he'll be in touch with you here over the next couple days. We'll get you out hopefully sometime next week. Great. Set it up. I go there. I interview. I go home, and probably about a week later, I'm the manager. So Minnesota was great. I told them, I said, I'm interviewing for this job, and they're like, great. And I end up getting it.
And here you are still as the Yankee manager all these
Yeah.
years later, which is pretty darn cool. And I
Yeah.
can remember being there your first year, and Nev was your third base coach. And
Yeah.
I happened to be in town, so I came to a game, and you're like, Coach, are you doing the game? I'm like, no, I just came to say hi. Uh, I had to see both you and Nev in the pinstripes as a manager and a coach.
Yeah.
And it just makes me so happy. But I like to end all my podcasts with a segment I call This Just In.
Okay.
And it's rapid fire questions.
Okay.
You can take as long as you want, but I
Okay.
also withhold the right of asking a follow up question. So you've been known to imitate batting stances throughout your life.
Uh-huh.
Give me your top 5 all-time stances to imitate.
Well, Joe Torre, but that's a walk to the mound. Dave Winfield. I love doing George Brett.
Mhm.
Larry Boa, who we grew up with. Like, I can always bring down the house, at least with my brother. He loves that one. Um, who else? Probably do Sean Casey's whole skit. Yeah.
I
Those
wasn't
five.
sure if you'd go like a Will Clark, a Mickey Tettleton.
No. Um,
See, for me, it was Ricky Henderson. I had to get real low.
yeah.
Favorite player growing up besides your dad?
Oof. Well, can I give a few?
Yeah.
All right. So I love Bake McBride. Greg Luzinski, I love too, and they were still to this day are, greatest family friends. So those were two that my dad played with. My first autograph, and I wasn't a big autograph guy, but when I was like, I think I was 3 or 4 years old, and I made my mom at Veterans Stadium walk me down to the visiting clubhouse to the big red machine because I wanted George Foster's autograph. So he
Yes.
was when I was really little. But then in my like 80s, which is defines your love of the game,
Mm-hmm.
right? I loved Barry Larkin, Paul Molitor, George Brett, Danny Tartable, and Kirby Puckett and Don Mattingly. Those were my six. Those were my love those guys. Yeah. So
Okay.
that's a lot.
So right there, that is my childhood bedroom where I have two posters of Mattingly
Oh,
and then a picture of me with Mattingly
with
in
Donnie.
the manager's office in Pittsburgh
Yeah.
when I did a game. Like it's one of my favorite things of all time.
Very cool.
However, my follow up, you said Barry Larkin.
Yeah.
You then were teammates
Yeah.
and played right next to Barry Larkin.
And we're very close. Yeah.
So that's got to be like
Yeah.
freaky for you.
Yeah. So one of the first things I told, I said, you remember like going to when I was a kid, where the ballpark you'd go and you get at All-Star time, you get the All-Star
Yeah,
ballot,
and you poke.
man, I love those, right? So my dad at the time in the 80s was then with the Angels. So he was always my National League shortstop. Like I loved him. And then we became great friends and teammates and yeah,
I was also told actually by another one of your old teammates, I think, CJ Nitkowski, or you guys are drafted maybe same class.
same class. He
CJ
was the
said,
first rounder, I was the third rounder, and we're born on the same day.
"Oh, damn, I didn't know that." And you guys are both great dudes. But
Yeah.
he said Barry Larkin. He said it, and also Mark Sweeney that Barry Larkin may have been the best leader they've ever seen. So that Sweeney said every day in infield, you guys would take infield like you're playing in a game. Like he
Oh,
would call out a situation for you to play the ball out.
yes. Yeah, he was unbelievable. He was great and so good to me and um yeah, we were really close and uh still to this day.
That's really cool. Best athlete you ever played with.
Oof. I'm probably missing somebody that's more obscure that's an amazing athlete, but Hanley Ramirez was when I played with him with the Marlins and it was him and Miggy. I think it was his first full year. No, it might have been his second year. He hit 330, 50 stolen bases, 30 homers, shortstop. I don't know if people remember. I mean, obviously he had a really good career, but I don't think people realize how unbelievably talented he was, especially at the start of the career when he was a shortstop and could still really run. Woo. He was amazing.
He was in Double A Portland in 2005 when I was doing the radio for the Erie Seawolves, and it would be Verlander against him in Double A or Zamaya against him, and it was he and Pedroia as the middle infield for Portland.
Yeah.
That was nasty.
Yes.
Favorite teammate of all time? I already think I know the answer.
No, you don't know the answer because my go-to answer for this is Mike Cameron.
Oh.
So I have a lot of, really maybe closer friends or guys that I love that were my great team. And Cammy and I only played 1 year together, but he was such an amazing teammate. He was, first of all, he was on our team in 1999, my favorite year of my life playing baseball. Little League, high school, college, pro ball, anything. 1999, funnest year I've ever had playing the game. And we were really good. And Mike Cameron was, one of the guys, and he was just such a good, he's a really good player, obviously. But he just had such an ability to relate to everyone, to have like this really competitive streak, but had fun every day. He just brought such an amazing energy with him to the ballpark every single day that I loved and cherished.
I love that. Great smile, too.
Yeah.
More pressure, playing in a game 7 or managing in a game 7?
I don't know. They're similar. It's different, but similar. Different, but similar. It's anxious leading up to it. Once you get in the games are always okay. Feel a little bit safe in the games, because it's what you do. But the lead up to big playoff games, man, the lead up's rough.
Favorite thing you've said as a manager to get tossed? Like the one thing you said that you almost thought you were laughing, like we were joking, and you got tossed. You're like, if I wanted to get tossed, I would have said something else. I didn't think that was going to actually happen, and you could actually have a laugh about it with the umpire afterwards.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, and then I'll end it on this because you said when you got traded to the Yankees, the Red Sox-Yankees rivalry would be different than you could ever imagine. How can you possibly explain what that rivalry is to someone who maybe hasn't seen it before?
Yeah, so in 2003, obviously going there, both teams were loaded, and it was like a peak time of the rivalry, So my first trip to Boston in August, middle of August, going there for the first time, and my wife was with me, and we're checking into like the Ritz-Carlton or something, nice hotel.
Yep.
And we go up to our room, and my key doesn't work. So it's like an actual key still.
Oh, yeah.
So the phone on the hallway, we call down, hey, my key doesn't work. They send somebody up, and this guy comes up, and he's working on the key thing. Like he's got to it's like maintenance. Like he's working on it. We're standing there, and he's, not really saying anything. I said to my wife, I go, must be a Red Sox fan. And he looks up at me, and he's like, yeah, that's right. I was like, all right, a little different here. The other, when we won Game 5 at Fenway to go back to the Bronx, we won Game 5 to go up 3-2, and I'll never forget this. Walking off with Willie Randolph, we're walking off of Fenway into the dugout to go up to the clubhouse, and there's people above our dugout, and there's this lady, couple probably with her boyfriend or husband or whatever, attractive lady that's probably, I don't know, in her 30s. She's got on flannel, the old school Boston ripped hat. She's got like a little aura look to her, cool. And she looks down at Willie and I and goes, F you, mother, go buy yourselves another championship. I mean, from so down deep, like I did not see this coming from this person. And I was like, wow, okay. Okay.
I love it, dude. I can't thank you enough for taking the time to do this with me. I know you got a crazy schedule, and the season's about to start. Spring training's right around the corner. It means a lot to me that you take the time to do this, and I'm always rooting for you. Obviously, I'm a diehard Yankee fan. Always been growing up as a diehard Yankee fan, and now that you're the manager of the team, it adds that much more. So, I wish you the best of luck.
Great to see you.
Great to see you too.
And I'll see you down the road. All right.
Absolutely. Let's get on the golf course sometime soon. Maybe in your SC gear again.
Love it. See you,
All right, Booney. Thanks.
Bye.